Hey Lux On Demand family, I am Pastor Andy, also known as Chino Mage, and I am super excited to welcome you to our YouTube channel. Now, normally we do live church services every single Wednesday night over at twitch.tv/Lux Digital Church, starting at 8:30 p.m. EST. It's a whole lot of fun getting the chance to talk with you live and really interact with you there. But our church mainly gathers on Discord, and you'll see the link below and in all of our profiles. We'd love to get the chance to hang out with you week in and week out. But for now, sit back and relax as we get ready for a new talk here on YouTube.
Well, hello and welcome to Lux Digital Church. My name is Mark. I'm the lead pastor here at Lux, and I'm joined tonight by Dr. Chris Marshall. Welcome to service, Dr. Chris.
Thanks a lot. Glad to be back again.
Yeah, this is Dr. Chris. The last time you were here, Chris, I can't remember what it was that we were talking about. It wasn't what we're talking about tonight.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't what we're talking about. So tonight we're in part 3 of a 5-week-long collection of conversations and talks. And if you are here and you're like, what is this? Why isn't this a sermon? Mike, quiet Mike. Which, we got it? Okay, we can't hear Dr. Chris. Okay, just boost his gain a little bit. You good there? Okay, awesome. So we're in part 3 of a 5-week collection of talks on spiritual disciplines. We've talked about the Bible, and we launched our Bible in 1 year plan. We're reading through that together. We talked about community last week. Small group sign up started last week. Small groups officially launch today. Today, we're going to be talking about a spiritual discipline that is, at best, something that most people don't think about very often. I think at worst, maybe a lot of Christians feel like isn't something that they should do, or maybe it's something that is a little old-timey or something that used to be done, but it's just not something that we do anymore. I grew up thinking that way. And then I worked at Chris's church as a pastor for 11 years. And sort of in the last, 4 or 5 years, maybe, the last couple of years of my time there. Yeah, last couple of years of my time there. Fasting became a major point of emphasis for us as a church. I can even remember, Chris, you coming up in front of our congregation and saying, 1,000 people saying like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, as your pastor, I haven't really led you in this way throughout my time as your lead pastor.
I did a series called If I Had a Do-Over. And one of the biggest things I wanted to do over was fasting.
Yeah. So tonight we're going to talk about fasting. Chris probably has more experience with this than maybe anybody else that I know personally. And I've always admired, like, there's just not a lot of guys who are in their like late 50s, early 60s who are just not eating for 20 days. I don't know no one. And so like when we came to the subject of fasting, I'm kind of a novice on it. So I thought it would be really cool to come and ask some questions and have a conversation. So if you guys have questions tonight about fasting, you can post them in the chat. I'll do my best to grab those. And we had a couple who came in really today that we're going to talk about too. So let me start with this. Let's talk about fasting. It's something most Christians have little to no experience with. Can you tell me about your experience with fasting personally, Chris?
Yeah, I've been a part of 8 churches, and 7 of them never did anything about it. And the one of them, I was the pastor. So I have come to the fasting discipline lately, really only in the last 5 or 6 years while I was at New Life. And so most of my fasting has been over the past 5 or 6 years, but I've caught up a lot. I did a 21-day fast about 6 times. I've done 3-day fasts so many times I can't count, and then I did 1 day a week, all for the last 5 or 6 years, up until May of this year.
Yeah. So a lot of experience in it. And you say 5 or 6 years, but Lux is celebrating its 5th birthday here in a couple of months.
Must be 7 or 8
So
years.
it must be longer than that.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking probably the last 3 years of my time at New Life it really became a thing. Something that we talked about a lot, something that you talked about a lot, something that you really encouraged and challenged us as a staff to begin participating in. Why do you think it is that, like, you pastored, how many churches did you say that you were a part of?
Well, I was part of 8, counting
Part
the
of
New
8,
Light,
yeah.
but I pastored 3.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So why do you think out of all of those 8 churches that fasting wasn't either something that was taught to you or something that you taught?
I'll tell you, for most of the time that I was part of it, some people saw it as works righteousness, and it's just like only monks do that, and it wasn't something that normal people did. And I realized I was really wrong, and normal people need to do it.
Yeah. We already had a couple of questions come in, and actually we're going to, Jade, I already had your question kind of written down, but biblically, fasting is always food. What do you think about fasting from other things? We're going to touch on that in just a moment. I have one as well. Is fasting not eating at all, or is it eating only certain foods? We're actually going to address that tonight as well. Okay. Let me go to question 2 here. You mentioned, well, actually you haven't been. You mentioned like 3-day fast, 21-day fasts, but I know you've had different fasts, like different periods of time, but also fasts that were different, like from one to the next. I think when most people think about fasting, their gut reaction is a water fast, right? Like, I'm not going to I'm not going to eat any food. I'm not going to put any nutrients in my body. I'm only going to drink water to sustain myself. I think that's a really overwhelming concept for most people, to be entirely honest with you, because most of us haven't gone like 6 hours without eating, let alone multiple days. I think I remember growing up as a kid and being told if you don't eat for 3 days, you'll die, which obviously is not true.
No, it's not true.
I have
the average American can go for quite a longer than 3 days.
Yeah, I probably have 20 days of food stored right now on my body, just ready to go at any time if I needed it. So talk to me a little bit about different types of fasts and what those look like.
Normally, fasting is fasting from water only. There's an absolute fast, which is no food or water.
Can't do that one for too long.
And you only can do that one for about 2 days, where you'll die. But there is in the Bible, the reason I say it.
Okay.
And
so let me, as we're going through it, I'll pause you. Where is that? Like, where's the absolute fast at? Because I do think there's lots of these fasts that are biblical. Most people could only think of maybe one fast that's biblical, but there are multiple ones represented in Scripture.
Well, Moses, when he got the 10 Commandments and all the laws, he fasted without food or water for 40 days, and nobody can do that. But with God's help, you can do it.
You can do it. Yeah.
Yes. Water only. Actually, you can't go to a place in the Bible that says water only, but when they're thinking of fasting, that's what they're thinking of. But Daniel is also, the Daniel fast is a fast from where you only eat vegetables and drink water or juice. And that's because when Daniel came into Babylon, he was supposed to eat the rich food the king gave him, and he didn't want to eat it. So probably the meat sacrificed to idols and stuff. So he said to the guy in charge of him, just let us eat vegetables and drink water.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, you're going to look terrible and I'm going to get in trouble. But after a week, he looked better than anybody else.
Yeah. Which one of the things they fasted from was wine. And we do know if you just were drinking a ton of wine and you stop drinking wine for 10 days, you probably will look better. Okay. Hale said, question, aside from anxiety, is it okay to fast spiritually without doing it the psychologically correct way, like fasting from solid food, but not strictly water? That's a good question. I'd be more impressed if most churches didn't do their 21-day fast in January when many people are dieting or doing a cleanse anyway. Yeah, that could be true. Fun fact, you could only do an oxygen fast for a couple of minutes. Also true.
Yeah, that's true.
I can do juice fasting, but if I have a migraine attack, I have to get food in me. This is my biggest hurdle with fasting. We're actually going to talk about that because that was a question that came in over Discord, like about medical concerns. So we have a complete fast, which obviously you can't do
Can't
long.
do long.
Yeah, you have a
Water
water
fast.
fast. You have a Daniel fast. Is there any other like types of
Well,
fasting?
Sometimes you can just fast from a particular type of food. Like
Okay.
Meat, just don't eat meat.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
you eat. The fast is really going without some amount of food and or water for extended period of time for religious reasons.
Yeah.
And that answers the question about can I fast from media, for example. You can't fast from media, but you can abstain from media,
Yeah.
which can be good for you. It can be done in conjunction with a fast. I think it's splitting hairs just as a word fast and a word abstain. I think a 30-day media fast, for example, once a year is a helpful thing. You can fast from
Soda, coffee, caffeine.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
another thing I'm going to say. If you're a caffeine person and you do a fast, you're going to get a headache because if you do just go with the caffeine. But so that's something you're going to have to decide when you start your fast. Are you going to do caffeine or are you not going to do caffeine?
Yeah. And then I think you've mentioned too, when we were sitting here, you had said that you do some fasts that aren't like, the next X amount of days. Like you said, I fast from a couple of meals a day once a week. So what does that look like? Because I think like in the fitness world, we might call that intermittent fasting.
Yes.
But I think the intention and purpose behind it do significantly matter. So that's not necessarily fasting completely from food. I've heard people doing like a solids fast, like they won't eat anything. They're just going to have liquids. Spoiler alert, we're going into a 3-day fast tonight. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing a solids fast, so I'm still going to have juice, bone broth, some ways to bring nutrients into my body so that I can function because it's only a 3-day fast, and 3-day fast, in my experience, the hardest fast. But there's the no solid food fasts, and then you've done what? Like, is it just skipping a meal every day, a day a week? What does that look like?
Well, sometimes I call it a day-long fast when it really isn't technically a day long. I'll eat breakfast and then I don't do lunch and then I do dinner, or else I eat dinner one night and then I don't eat breakfast and lunch and then I eat dinner the next day. But if you can figure it out, I didn't skip 3 meals; I skipped 2.
Yeah.
In fact, I did that kind of fast today. I ate breakfast and I'm going to eat breakfast tomorrow morning.
Okay, so you're going roughly about 24 hours without
you go
food.
24 hours. Without
Roughly about
food.
24 hours. What changes other than I'm hungry during that time? Like, how do you take that and say, okay, this is, I think most people could see if I go 6 days, 7 days, 10 days without eating, I could see myself getting pretty desperate. I could see that having a life-changing impact. I think some other people, the Knights of the Nerd Table, it's good to see you. I could say some other people who might say like, okay, I skip breakfast every day. How is that a fast? So what makes it a fast for you versus just intermittent fasting for your health, or maybe I just forgot to eat?
Well, it's a matter of what the focus is. If I'm fasting, I'm doing it for God. And I'm focusing on God. And like today at lunchtime, when I would have been eating lunch, I was praying. And this evening, when I was not eating dinner, I was reading a book on fasting, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so I was focusing on God. And again, a short fast, I consider a short fast anything less than a week.
Yeah.
And those kind of fasts, you don't really rely on God as much as maybe willpower. But even then, if you I got hungry today. And when I got hungry, I thought, instead of thinking about food, I thought about God.
Yeah.
And I just, and if you do 3 days fast, if you're doing that 3-day fast, you're going to be hungry sometime. And so every time you get a hunger pang, you think about God or ask him, what do you want me to do? You know, you just communicate with God.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that when you do it for 1 day, maybe nothing happens. But if you do it once a week and every day, and you every say Wednesday, you fast for that day, and then that day becomes God's day, and it's I can't explain it until you do it. But once you do it, you'll get the idea is that today I felt God's presence more, and than any other day.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different benefits, but the real benefit is in a longer fast because, like for instance, day 11 of a 21-day fast, and I only do 14 days of water, but that day I feel great. I believe it or not, you feel great, and you feel physically better. You just 11 days fast, you've lost 5 or 10 pounds, depending on, you might have lost 20 pounds if you were 50 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
You know, but that aside, you just feel closer to God, and I just feel like I have a direct line to God whenever I get about day 15, 20. It's
love that.
amazing.
Hale said in chat, I'm 48 hours into a fast right now and releasing so much grief I didn't know I still had. Hunger is a non-issue for me. Forcing myself to be honest with God is why I do it.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, a really good answer. There was some conversation in here about abstinence versus fasting. I think it might be splitting hairs, but I do think it's an important point to make. There's a difference between abstaining from something and fasting. Both are good. Both can serve a similar purpose.
Yes.
But abstaining from social media from 21 days will not do the same things to you as fasting from something for 21 days. It's just not going to. They both serve a purpose in drawing you close to God, maybe pulling distractions away from you, maybe giving you more time with God. All of those things are true, but they aren't the same. And so although I think that the distinction between fasting versus dieting is helpful. Yeah, it's also not a crash diet, right? I did intermittent fasting last summer. I felt so sick. Turns out I'm pregnant, Ellie Lund says. You should not fast while you're pregnant. Yes, do not do that. Yeah, and so, but I do think that is I think it's something that I see happen a lot in churches where we're doing a fast, and if people are like, I'm fasting, and I get that, but if your fast is abstaining, I think it's important that we're upfront about that, because that it isn't technically a fast, and those are two different spiritual disciplines that are both biblical, that have both been practiced by Christians for a very long time. Both are important. They're similar. They're just not exactly the same. Okay, let me ask you this next question. What do you focus on while fasting? We answered this a little bit, but what is the spiritual benefit to not eating, or at least limiting what you eat?
Right. Well, I'm focusing on God. And like I said, today I prayed, and then I read a book. Really, every time when you're hungry, you turn to God. And I read a book today by John Piper on fasting, and he said something that really struck me. He said, when you're fasting, your hunger for God is the primary, and in the hunger for food, if like, let's say you woke up depressed today, and you fasted or you ate, what would be the difference? Well, sometimes we eat for lots of reasons, but we eat to feel better. But what would be wrong with fasting to turn to God and ask for His help and His presence? And I never really thought about it, but I thought about it, my history of fasting, and when I've been fasting, it's just It's just a reality that my focus is more on God.
Coderman asked a couple interesting questions. I'd like to hear more about the motivation for fasting. We just did that. I've been against the idea of fasting as twisting God's arm to get something you want because you think prayer isn't enough, which could be interpreted as a lack of faith. Follow-up question. Also, I'd like to hear your take on Matthew 9:15, which is literally, I think, what you just brought up, which Jesus says that fasting would occur after he was taken away from his disciples. So it seems to be associated with mourning, but we have Jesus with us. I've heard that the disciples fasted to have more time with God because food preparation took a lot of time. So I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but little take on Matthew 9:15, which we were just talking about.
9:15, just for you, if you don't know, the disciples of John came and said, "We fast, and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples don't fast." And Jesus said, "How can you fast when the bridegroom is present?" And Jesus, in that time, was calling himself the bridegroom. And in the Old Testament, God appeared as the husband. Now Jesus was saying, "I'm God." So how can you fast now? But I'm going to be gone, and then they can fast. Now, your interpretation, we have Jesus present with us. We do by the Spirit.
Yeah.
But he is not bodily present with us. He's coming back, and he is coming back. And when he comes back, we won't fast, but he's gone. He's with us spiritually, but he's not with us is what he was talking about. And so from that period of time till he left until he comes back, we fast. And it's not to twist his arm, but we fast in order to be, it's like we are with him and in a different way. And really, I'm doing a poor job of explaining this, but what I mean is simply that I'm not trying to get God to do something that he wouldn't do otherwise. I'm trying to get into God's presence. And by abstaining from food, which is something that can dull my senses, can be a substitute for God, I'm saying, "God, here I am, I'm yours." And that's what is more intense.
Yeah, intending to draw you close to God, intending to bring you into a close. It's not about twisting God's arm to get what you want. Although I had a follow-up question here. Should we fast for a specific reason? For example, is there a benefit to just skipping meals, or should we only fast when we need discernment, wisdom, healing? I'm not sure that's twisting God's arm, but you definitely see times, I think, in the scripture, specifically in the New Testament, where the disciples fasted and prayed for somebody or for a specific thing.
I think I have fasted specifically for wisdom. If I need an answer it just doesn't seem to be coming, I'll fast. And again, I'm the one that's getting sharper. It's not I'm getting something from God. And I think God is talking to us all the time. I just don't listen all the time.
Sure.
And I'm more prone to listen when I'm fasting than when I'm not.
Yeah. You might not know this passage off the top of your head. I don't. Agent Cox says Isaiah 58, 6-7. I like that type of fast. Do you know Isaiah 58, 6-7?
Yeah.
Of course you do, yeah.
Well, it's a key fasting passage.
Okay.
But God basically says, "I don't want your fast if all you're doing is doing it to impress me, to do a religious activity. I want you to fast stop harassing your workers, stop treating the poor badly." So basically, it's a fast from being selfish.
Being sinful, destructive.
And destructive. I think that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so if you have physical things like diabetes or other issues, not eating might be a problem. Could you talk to your doctor or medical professional about whether it would be safe for you to even do a Daniel fast breach? We'll get back to that. Don't worry. We are going to, I know you've been answering that question in the chat. It's on the list. I promise you it's on the list. We are going to address it. It doesn't seem like it's making God do something, but us hononing, honing in and focusing on the Lord to align with the heart of God when the future isn't clear. Okay, so 100%. Let me go to this one. We just did question 5. Really, can you fast from other things than food and drink? Can you fast from video games, TV, social media? We said technically not. That's abstaining, but yes, you can. It's definitely healthy to remove certain things from your life, and if you want to do that, please do. So the next one is, and this goes in with West's questions. I'm going to ask them both. Let's say I decided to do a water fast for the next 3 days, with a Lux 3-day fasting emphasis. What should I expect to experience? And then West also asked, how would you recommend entering into fasting as someone who's never fasted before and doesn't have a strong prayer relationship with God?
Right. Well, first of all, if you're going to do a 3-day fast, the first question I would ask, do you do caffeine? Because if you just take away caffeine for 3 days, you're going to have a headache.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, for example, I will fast, but I'm going to drink coffee.
Okay.
Because if I just don't drink coffee tomorrow morning, I will be miserable all day.
And then the end of the first day or the beginning of the second day, you probably will get a little bit of headache from just not having food. And I don't know what the medical reason, but you won't. Really, a 3-day fast, you get all of the negative physical impact without getting as much of the positive, but it's still worth doing. The feeling of hunger doesn't come for most people in the end of the first day. The second day gets worse. I do want to say one thing. We can only fast because we have food. If you don't have any food, it's called starving.
Yeah, there is a difference.
When I do
Fasting
a
is a
21-day fast or a 7-day fast or a 3-day fast, I have a choice to do that because I have the resources. That's very important. And whenever we deprive our body of food, certain things are going to happen, but your mind is going to get clearer. At first, it might be fuzzy because of a headache, but your mind, even in the second and third day, your mind will get clearer. And again, if you said you don't pray that much or you're not used to it, I'm going to take your solitude in silence. Just sit in silence. And maybe you've never done that, but just during the time of fasting, I always did a couple days of solitude. And that if you can, I mean, obviously you have a schedule to keep, but you take some more time. The meal time especially, you were going to eat. So take that time and pray. Take that time and have a conversation about God with somebody. Do something spiritual in place of something physical.
Yeah. How do I make fasting not just an event, but an actual spiritual rhythm, right? I read my Bible. Maybe I'm trying to read my Bible every day this year. Maybe I'm trying to pray a certain amount each week or each day this year, joining a small group, right? How do I make fasting an actual rhythm? Because here at Lux, we say rhythm is greater than religion. It's one of our core values.
Yeah.
And so we're always trying to move people towards spiritual rhythms. Miller Lite, I did see your question in chat too, and I promise I'll get to that because I think it's a really important one. How do I make fasting a regular spiritual rhythm?
Well, you schedule it. Anything you want to have be a rhythm in your life, you schedule it.
That's a great point.
If you don't schedule it, then it gets replaced by anything. But if you put it in your schedule. I have this May 30th, I had a stroke, so I haven't been able to do a 21-day fast or a 14-day fast or a 3-day fast. I'm only allowed to do a 1-day fast, and I'm only just now allowed to do it. For 6 months, he didn't want me doing any. I know I'm answering the medical question.
Well, that's good. That's a good question. Yeah.
But you need to go to your doctor if you're diabetic or any kind of digestive problem before you fast. My case, he just didn't want me to go without food because I needed the nourishment to get my brain to be healing. So I went to the doctor. I might as well pay attention to his instructions. And so today was the first day that I fasted, but I used to fast every Monday. And to be honest with you, it was the day that was easiest I didn't have other things, and it would be in that. So I scheduled Mondays, and my wife knew that. So if you're married, your spouse has to know. What if she cooks a big dinner, and you say, "Oh, I'm fasting today."
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Uh-huh.
that I've done that before because I'm not always the schedule guy. So I started by saying I'm fasting on Monday, and telling my wife, so I won't be eating lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Okay, or breakfast and lunch, whatever. Now I said today. I said I said yesterday to my wife, I'm gonna try fasting one day a week, starting Wednesdays, starting tomorrow. So I won't be eating lunch and dinner, and she's fine. So you be respectful of your family situation.
Yeah.
Jesus said in Matthew 6, when you fast, and it doesn't say if you fast, when you
When you
fast,
fast.
you don't be like a hypocrite and show off, basically. He said you do it privately. Well, that's true, but he doesn't mean you can't tell your wife you're going to fast. You need to tell your wife or your husband or your kids. But the idea of privately, or whether it's giving or praying or fasting, what he says, each thing is to be done between you and God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think, that's where I get the relationship is the most important thing, and it has to be.
Yeah. Well, Chris, a couple of things from that. I'm going to go to Miller Lite's question here in a moment because it's a question around gum, but really it's a question around legalism, which I think is a really important point that we need to touch on. If you guys just missed what Chris had shared, Chris serves on our board for the first 3 or 4 years that we existed as a church. And about 9 months ago, Chris had a stroke. And many of you on our team, especially, we asked to please be praying for Pastor Chris and his recovery. And, that day that it happened, I came down in the hospital. You were not cognizant enough to know that I was there at the time. But he had a paralyzed arm, paralyzed leg, couldn't really talk. And so one of the things that we wanted to just say was thank you.
Yes, I thank you very much. If you prayed for me, thank you very much. Those prayers worked.
Yeah. And so Chris has been in the recovery process. And I think, when we had this question that came in, Z Emperor asked it, which was, how would one fast if they have chronic medical condition like diabetes or Crohn's? And obviously we have some of you. There's a difference between I get lightheaded when I don't eat. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets lightheaded when they don't eat. That's universal. And I have a serious medical condition that prevents me from fasting. Seek help. If seek your doctor, go to them. Just like Chris had said, like fasting was a major part of his spiritual life, a major part of his spiritual rhythms. And after his stroke has had to not fast until very recently when he got approval from his doctor. So go to your doctor and get approval. I want to be clear, there is a difference between having diabetes or Crohn's or a specific medication that you need to take sustenance for and just, being lightheaded or getting headaches whenever you don't eat. We all experience that. But please, yes, talk to your doctor, make sure that you're healthy enough, especially if you're going to experience or do a fast that's like intense. If you're going to do a water fast where you're not going to do anything but drink water for a couple of days, definitely talk to a doctor about that. Make sure you're healthy enough for it. But if not, there might be other ways for you to wade into it. So Tyrannosaurus West asked, how do I maybe get started? We're going to be doing a 3-day fast starting tonight. It's going to end on Saturday with a live stream from 7 or about 8 to 8:30. Do a one meal a day. Skip one meal a day. Eat only lunch and dinner, or eat only breakfast and dinner, or whatever over the next couple of days. Pick one of those days to choose to fast and only drink liquids, only drink some juice or maybe some coffee that day, and just abstain from solid foods. And during those times when you would eat, spend some time in prayer instead. Be wise, for example, don't water fast during a heat wave. Yeah, and I made that mistake. I was 6 days into a 7-day water fast, and it was 95 degrees outside, and I mowed my grass with a push mower one year. That was a bad decision. That was a really bad choice. I already skipped breakfast anyway. Well, Treasure, if you're already skipping breakfast anyway, maybe that's not a fast for you then. Maybe if you're trying to fast, you're saying, I already skipped breakfast or I already skipped lunch. Like, fast should be in some capacity sacrificial, and also a time where you're refocusing your energy, your mind on God. Now, Miller Lite asks, can I chew gum? Which, brings up a really good point, because I think I do this when I get into a fast, man. I can become so legalistic about every little thing. And I don't know about you, Chris, but like I passively snack. And so like I've been like 4 days into a fast, and like I just randomly grabbed a Dorito or something, or like a pretzel out of the cupboard and put it in my mouth. And like I'm like bleh, bleh, bleh. I'm like trying to spit it out, and scrape all the salt off my tongue. I don't want a single calorie, because I can get really legalistic about it. I know you've gone through the whole battle with legalism when it comes to fasting.
Yeah, one thing about the gum, my wife makes me chew gum after about 5 or 6 days, because fasting for 5 or 6 days, you will get bad breath. That's another.
You also get very cold. If you get when I get about 4 or 5 days in, my body temperature drops and I get very cold. Yeah, even in the middle of the summer.
But that's right. The legalism, you're not getting a gold star for fasting. God doesn't promote you or something. So you basically, if you have to even, what's this? Is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, your fast.
Yes.
So Friday night, you were planning to not eat dinner, but you really need to eat dinner. God's gonna understand. I just don't make it about the exact detail of the fast. Make it about the relationship.
Yeah. Sarah the Dreamer asked, so if I don't believe in fasting, is that bad? In my opinion, there's other ways to get closer to God respectfully. Sarah, you're entitled to your own opinion. I don't really know what it is exactly that you believe about God. Certainly, some people believe in higher powers. I would only say this: if you're a Christian and you believe that the Bible is the truth, then to believe that fasting isn't a way to God and you don't believe in it is just to believe opposite of what the Bible teaches. And so I would challenge you that if you are a Christian, you call yourself a Christian, and you don't believe in fasting, that I would challenge you to look to the scriptures and see if that is a correct belief, because I think you will find through the scriptures that it isn't. If you're not a Christian and you don't think that fasting is a good way to get to God, then more power to you. We love that you're here. We're glad that you're here, and you don't need to be a Christian to be able to be part of our church and part of our community at all. But if you are one, I would just encourage and challenge you: go to the Bible and read and take a look at what the Bible actually has to say about fasting. Fasting does give you bad breath. Please brush your teeth while fasting, Dr. Levelup says.
One thing that somebody just mentioned, when you break your fast, you said it says break it with pizza. Don't break your fast with a pizza.
I did that live on stream. It was not good.
Break your fast with some vegetables or fruit or something. Especially the longer the fast, the more you need to break it in gradually.
Yeah. Okay, so in closing, Chris, we're going into a 3-day fast as a church. There's going to be people here who are going to take that challenge and fast for the very first time in some capacity. What advice would you give, just in closing, if you had a last word or so of advice for our church? And if you want to, you can use this time to also show the couple of books that you brought with you.
Well, I mentioned the one book. It's A Hunger for God by John Piper. I don't have the other. Well, the other book I have is Pursuit, and it's a 21-day guide for prayer and fasting devotional. It's a very good book if you ever want to do a longer fast. And the best book I ever read on fasting is God's Chosen Fast by Arthur Wallace. It was written in 1969. But if I were to give you one word of advice, just go ahead and do it. Choose one meal, one day, whatever.
One type of food.
One type of food or anything. And when you're doing it, if you skip a meal, focus on God. Make it about drawing closer to God. That's what it's really about. And it'll bless you. And the fact that you're doing it as a whole church, I think there's a blessing in doing it as a corporate body.
Well, okay. In closing, guys, we're laying it out there. I've told you in this series, every single week we're going to leave you with a challenge. And so, week 1, we launched the Bible in a year. Last week we said join a small group. Many of you did. This week we're telling you, come and join us in our 3-day fast. If it's the first time you're fasting, join us in that. Share in the Discord what your experience is like. Come and join us for our live stream on Saturday evening as we close out our fasting together. Next week, we're going to be talking about prayer. Pastor Andy is going to be talking with a guest about prayer. And afterwards, Gym Leader Justin and the prayer team are going to be launching a 24-hour prayer room that is going to be happening in Discord. And we're going to allow you to sign up. You can sign up right now. Go over to our Discord, go to Lux Announcements. You can sign up for a 30-minute time slot. We're going to have instructions on how to pray for 30 minutes, along with different things that we're going to be praying for. And then the last week, we're going to be talking about sacrifice, and specifically sacrifice of time and talent. And we're going to be talking about joining teams here at your church as a really easy way to take a first step into taking your time and talent and serving in the kingdom of God. And so we're encouraging and challenging you. I'm, as your pastor, challenging you. If you've never fasted before, consider taking up the challenge for the first time to fast this fasting emphasis. And if that's, I'm not going to drink caffeine for a couple of days, if that's no sweets for a couple of days, if you are planning on doing a water fast, I'm not even doing a water fast this time around. I'm going to be doing broth and juice. I'm going to be just doing a solid foods fast over the next couple of days. Find something that you think will work for you, something that you can wade into, and take the time when you would have been eating, or maybe you got that headache because you're fasting from caffeine, and take that time to turn your attention towards God and spend some time in his presence and to pray and to speak with him. That's going to do it for our time here. I'm going to go ahead and close this in a word of prayer, Chris, and then we'll hand things over to our worship team. Father God, I thank you for the opportunity that we have to sit here and talk with Pastor Chris. Lord, I'm thankful that my friend and spiritual father and mentor, quite honestly, is still here to talk about fasting with me, because 9 months ago, I didn't know if that would be the case. And so I'm so thankful that you enable us to learn from his wisdom, and that through your grace, that you've provided the healing and the doctors for us to continue to learn from Dr. Marshall, from his years of experience as a pastor, and his many years in the Bible. I pray, God, that I know that this is a challenging one. Every time we bring up fasting, people know, oh, I should read my Bible. Every time we bring up fasting, we get a lot of people who are just telling me why they can't. We get a lot of people who are throwing a little bit of like, I don't want to. And I think it's because it's the spiritual discipline that might be the most important for us to start practicing. If it's the one that we're the most stubborn with, if it's the one that we feel like the most discomfort over, I think it's the one that maybe is the most important for us. So often, I think we're good at checking spiritual boxes, but we're just not good at spending time in your presence and with you. And fasting beckons us and reminds us that we aren't sufficient, that we're so dependent, that we're not the beginning and the end of everything, that we're not the center of the universe, that we're not the Alpha and the Omega, but that you are, Father, and that we can draw close to you and have a real intimate relationship with you. And so I just lift up our church family for each and every person who's taking this challenge to spend the next 3 days fasting in any capacity, whether that be a Daniel fast, a 1 meal, a 1 day, a water fast, a solid foods fast, whatever it might be that they're deciding to take up over the next couple of days. I pray for strength, but ultimately, God, I pray more than anything for your presence, that your presence would be made real and tangible to us, Father. We love you, Lord, and we thank you. We pray all of these things in your holy and amazing name. Amen.
Amen.
I am an instrument of exaltation, and I was born to lift your name above all names. You hear the melody of all creation, but there's a song of praise that only I can bring. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? And there is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. You are the infinite God of the ages, yet you choose to make my heart your dwelling place. You healed my brokenness, showed me your glory.
So I have songs of thanks not even angels sing. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? And who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Lamb of God, anointed one, who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one who shed his blood. You prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ, be lifted up. Holy, holy, Lamb of God, anointed one, who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one who shed his blood to prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ, be lifted up. Holy, holy, Lamb of God, anointed one, who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one who shed his blood to prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ, be lifted up. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy?